Well, hello everybody. Oddly enough, I'm not. Oh yes, I am seeing myself now. So we are fine. Welcome back, everybody. This is the Inworld review, as we now call this, and whatever today's date is. Anybody know? I don't.
It's the 27th, Mal.
It is the 27th of January. That is good. I should know that, really, shouldn't I? Yes. For those of you watching, of course, you will have just seen some clips, tribute clips to the Lost World, while The Sims in Second Life, that may be disappearing very shortly. Very beautiful stuff, I have to say. Anyway, welcome to the Inworld review. I'm joined, as ever, by Saffia Widdershins. Hi, Saffia.
Hello, Mal. It's nice to see you in the pixel as opposed
In
to
the
in the flesh.
Exactly. We met in the flesh last night. We had
That's
a
right.
little meet up in London. We were joined by Eric, of course, and Georgie, who I think that's the avatar pronunciation. He's actually in the audience here, but he's not on Skype, so he is listening to us. So good to see you too, George, yesterday. And yes, indeed. And joining us especially this week, th- Honor McMillan. Hi, Honor.
Hello, Mal. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, almost people who follow my Inworld Twitter feed are very familiar with you because I always describe you as another day, another destination. Your blog, is just there's somewhere new to explore on your blog every day. If on those days that you don't manage to do two, in fact,
Mm-hmm. When I actually get other work done.
Yeah, exactly. It's just
Yeah.
a wonderful blog that shows the immense variety of things available in world and very current to you're very adept at picking up new stuff. Almost adept as Saffia, in fact. So I think we've actually got loads to talk about this week. Loads of things happening. The first thing I thought to mention, because I didn't mention in the highlights, is that the Linden Endowment of the Arts, their full sim art series, has just opened the vacations. You're involved in that, Honor?
I am the newest advisor to the LEA organizers, which means I've done absolutely nothing. And know very little,
Right.
But I'm there. Yes, so the latest series of applications has just been opened. If people go to the Linden Endowment for the Arts blog, they will find a description and link to the application form. And please, please, please submit your idea. It isn't necessary to be somebody everybody recognizes as an artist in Second Life. In fact, it would be really, really helpful if we had new faces and new artists, because they need exposure, and this is one way to get it.
Yeah, I have to say, actually, one of my criticisms of the LEA, well, it's not criticism really, but you do find the same artists popping up there again and again. So,
well, in part, that's because of we don't necessarily get applications from people who think, oh, I'm not good enough, or, maybe they haven't seen the application process, or perhaps they're just shy. But I know that there are people out there working away doing amazing things, and this is an opportunity for them to share it with the rest of us. So please, please apply.
Yes, I
Yes.
agree. Absolutely. Everybody get out there and apply for Linden Endowment of the Arts, especially if you haven't done it before. Get some fresh blood in there.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Let me hand over to you, Saffia, for a while. What's happening on your front, so to speak? We have a new Happy Hunting up, by the way. But,
excellent. Yes, Happy Hunting came out on Friday and was a great show. We haven't got the Black Mirror this season. I know that you'll miss that, Mal, and I think a lot of people will. But we're stepping back from the Black Mirror for the moment. We're giving all the people who are involved in that time to recover before we set to work on the new season. We are, but we still managed to have a packed show. We actually had the show, the news part of the show where Rosamu Mendelssohn always shows off wonderful things you can find on the hunt. She actually did that in a house, a complete house that is a hunt gift. And it's a really lovely little house by El Crescendo. And then obviously it was utterly packed with wonderful things you could correct. But when you asked me what was happening on my front, I think that was actually a very appropriate thing to ask, because if I stand up and turn around so Pet can show, what's happening on my front is, of course, 1 Billion Rising, which is the huge dance event that is going to be in support of women and aimed at raising awareness of violence against women. And that's going to be on February the 14th. And at the moment, Honor and I are both very busy in organising it. We came over from a meeting, our regular weekly meeting where we assess progress. We have got, in a secret location, we have got a model of the stage, and it is looking awesome. And we were we were looking at kiosks and sorting out places where the artists are going to go and all that sort of thing. We're about to be interrupted by meows. Sorry about this.
I'll point out that it's going to happen for 24 hours. There will be 24 performers and 24 artists and hundreds of dancers all at the same time for 24 hours. It's going to be a riot.
We're going to be making a video. That's our plan. And we're hoping to live stream the event, and clubs, if they want to hold their own events, should be able to pick up our stream. We'll be talking to them about how they can find out how to do this. So even if, say, the grid is packed, there should be other locations on the grid where you could go to take part in the 24 hours.
I was wondering for a second where the meow was coming from. The teddy bear, this wonderful teddy bear by you, with 1 million rising.
Well, we have various things now. We have a teddy bear. We have 2 teddy bears, actually, because there's this teddy bear that sits there, which is a 1 billion teddy bear. And we also have a cuddle bear that you can stand and cuddle the bear that is holding its 1 billion rising balloon. And these have been made for us by Rails Bailey, for which we are very grateful. The t-shirts and the hat, and let me see if I can find my hat and put that on, have been made by Trill Zapatero. And you will be delighted to hear, and I will pass over to you before the end of the show, the man's shirt. There are mesh shirts. She had she very kindly made mesh shirts for men, so you can have a boobless t-shirt now. And I know that you
something of a relief. Given the mesh thing I've been picking up of late and finding ready-made attachments that I don't particularly want. Yes, indeed. Very good news. And we will be going out of the Inworld sequence in an hour or so, whenever it is. But they will be putting on a show together in support of this 1 billion rising. But you can wait. We'll surprise you when we do it. While I remember, Saffia, I think you did mention something to me about this last night. The Inworld event's also getting some support, isn't it, from the RL website?
That's right. We when we set up the event, one of the things we did was we registered with the main website, and I sort of wrote to them a little diffidently saying, look, we want to do this in a virtual world. And I explained that the great thing about doing it in a virtual world is that people who aren't close to a real life event, and they're happening all over the world, but some people will be isolated from those, and they could still come in and be part of that event in Second Life. And there are people who can't travel to this sort of event, maybe because of distance, maybe because of other reasons, but they can still come into Second Life and join in this event. So I explained this to the organisers and they were very excited, and they have started publicising the Second Life event through the Real World site. And I'm really thrilled about that. That's such a kind of affirmation of what we're trying to do here. And obviously we're affirming what they're trying to do, but it's nice when it works both ways and they're sort of telling people, hey, we're in a virtual world as well. You know, you can go and see it in a virtual world. It's great.
That's just one of the perfect things about these environments. You know, they suddenly become accessible to people who can't travel or too far away, etc., etc. And you know, benefits the real world events just as well. So this is great. Okay, let me move on. Last week, we all spoke a bit blindly, should we say, about a wonderful, well, I'll call it an installation called Cityscape, which I'd actually briefly got onto. And in my view, I saw a mostly grey-coloured cityscape, and I did my best to describe it, but since none of us had really explored it, I was at a bit of a loss to go into depth about it. But I know that during the week, and Honor has been over there and actually did a wonderful blog on this. And off stage, just before we come on air, we were already talking about it. You were most impressed by this one, weren't you, Honor?
I really was. Partly, I mean, I was very surprised because I had no idea what I was going to go visit. I didn't know what it was. But I have to tell you, it was the freakiest experience I've had in 5.5 years in Second Life. If you imagine a giant sphere, I think it may be sim-sized, but it's an enormous sphere with 132 buildings on it, streets, and you can walk into buildings, and there's bicycles, and you have to I think there's one point on the sphere where your avatar will be vertical in relation to the surface of the grid. The rest of the time you're going at an angle. So you will click on the ground, get a red box, wear it, and then you can walk and remain perpendicular to the sphere, but not to the ground, if that makes sense.
Right.
Your camera, the things in your camera, because I take pictures, start to turn upside down as you move your way around the sphere and in and out of buildings. But it's absolutely fabulous. It's a brilliant build. They point out it gives you 3 times the amount of square footage you would get in a regular sim. But don't go drunk, because frankly, I mean, any mind-altering substance you may have taken will be superfluous, because the sim itself is freaky. It's really cool. And it's not going to be there forever. It's not planned as a permanent installation. So people should go check out the Cityscape as soon as possible. It's very cool.
Yeah, I was worried when they first announced it, because it sounded like they were, I think this is just an accidental bit in the wording, but it sounded like they were pitching for shops and people to come into the building. But of course it is only temporary, so it's more a demonstration of purpose. But yeah, I liken it to sort of a full sim-size asteroid.
Yeah.
But of course, all the surface is available, and you know, that means you got the bottom, the top, the sides, that you know, 1/3. No, 3 times the size, you said. So it's it's astonishing.
Yeah, there's skyscrapers and parks, and it's really a very cool experience.
It sounds it. I really.
The one thing I'm probably glad about. Yeah, and I think the one thing I'm glad about is they didn't wrap it in another sphere and Oddfellows too.
That's right. Yeah. No, the sky is there.
Have it Can you imagine going to a build like that and also having something equally disorientating happening in the sky? That would just
well, they do recommend they recommend 2 things. They recommend that you keep your camera about 20 meters above your avatar, and to heighten the effect, because it really is bizarre. They also recommend some wind light settings, and I use the Linden Lab viewers. So the win light settings they recommended were in note card form, which is, I understand it, is very useful if you're on a TPV. It wasn't useful for me. So I just went, I have about 800 win light settings in my inventory. So I just sort of clicked through and did weird things myself. But you can enhance the experience or make it even more disorienting with their win light setting.
Great. Well, I'll try and find a lag-free time to actually go back there because I did confess that my exploration, I probably got vertigo. That's probably what it was. I mean,
Maybe
my exploration went, a few yards, well, a few meters anyway. I got the idea and then had to TV somewhere else. So look forward to going back there. It sounds fascinating. Now, you also have covered this on the next thing that looks absolutely wonderful. And I'm a big fan, in fact, of the musician Leonard Cohen. And there is an exhibition open, it's already opened, called Unified Heart 2013, which features interpretations of Leonard Cohen's work. Maybe you'd like to tell us a bit about that. There was one last year,
there was one last year, and I'm trying to, there's about 20 artists involved this year. They took a song by Leonard Cohen and interpreted it in their art. If you go to bloggingsl.net and see their post on the Leonard Cohen installation, you'll see some extraordinary photographs of some, the art is just stunning. And you'll be able to find a link to go see the exhibit. I'm very partial to Leonard Cohen, not just because he's Canadian, but because I have a lot of fond memories that I associate with his music. And this is just, it's a stunning exhibit. It's something I think everybody should see. But then I think everybody should see everything. But,
Well, I certainly want to go and see it. It does look awesome.
Right. For those of you watching on the channel, you should. Tara's just put up the link on the screen while we're watching, so that's great. Yes. I've got fond memories. He's part of what we call the soundtrack to our lives. And,
yes.
So I wouldn't say he's prominent in my soundtrack, but he's just always there, if you see what I mean, and gone through many changes as well. So, but the photos I saw that you posted were absolutely wonderful.
Well, those aren't mine. I take no credit for those posts, but the link I posted, those photographs are by some stunning photographers. They've just done an amazing job.
And it's, there is nothing sameish about it, too. They're all very, very different.
Yes.
Which I think is the key thing here. It's not like everybody's done a portrait and then a Cohen or anything. It's interpretation, and it's a really wide variety of interpretation that they've included. So, definite plus point. I actually had a clip I was going to show this week, but I decided against it because it's one of those awful machinima jobs where the machinima's not bad, but they've left their interface on, and I don't know, these things always upset me. But it was actually, this is vaguely related. It was actually a tour of there's apparently a virtual Grateful Dead exhibit in World.
Oh, cool.
I've been to. I'd have to dig up the link later for this. As I said, it was machinima and it was interface heavy. I've actually been to a couple of rock and roll museums in the world. What's the name? Lenswoman photographer. I forget her first name. It has a lot of real life rock and roll photographs on exhibit in about 3 different Inworld locations, I think. But the Grateful Dead one, has definitely got that feeling. That only the Grateful Dead one can have, full of virtual visual memorabilia. So that is somewhere I'm going to check out when I find out where it is.
There is actually a very strong and active Grateful Dead community within Second Life. Dark Star is one of the headquarters, I think, of the Grateful Dead community in Second Life. And in addition, I'm having a senior moment. I'm trying to find his name. One of my favorite performers in Second Life used to perform with the Grateful Dead. And he does, or at least he used to do, I assume, a weekly set on Darkstar with the Grateful Dead music that he's known for and loved and participated with the band. So if you're a Grateful Dead fan, you can find a number of outlets in Second Life.
That doesn't surprise me, because the Grateful Dead fans were actually behind one of the early innovative uses of the net with the well. They were the people who really got the well going, and that was the Deadheads who played a leading part in that, according to Howard. Oh gosh, what's his surname?
Rheingold.
Rheingold, yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. They were also, of course, the financiers behind. We still have it, Internet Archive. .org. They were very instrumental in setting that up. Yes, I'm almost surprised there wasn't a Deadheads metaverse before Second Life.
Yes.
But it's the sort of thing you almost feel should have been, but they didn't actually get that far in their pioneering. And of course, we lost Joe Garcia rather early, which is such a shame.
Von Johan. By the way, the performer's name is Von Johan. You may know him for his blues and his picking and his guitar work, but he did perform with the Dead, and he does a lot of Dead music at least once a week. So there you go. Yes,
we've shown clips of him from time to time, and in fact, I first time I came across him was I think it was when Gibson Guitars opened to see him.
They had the Gibson Island.
Yeah, I don't think it's there anymore, but he was part of that, and he'd actually received, I think, MTV or one of the, some of the mainstream music channels sort of picked up on it. So yeah, he's good. I like him very much.
Yeah, he was one of the first performers to get a real life recording contract out of the work he had done in Second Life.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right, big bonus, that one.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, he's very good indeed. Okay, let's move on again. I'm going to come back to you, Saffia, on this one. Are you ready to relay? Now, it's never a time when we're ready to relay. I mean, it's still not going to be a fair way before we do our telethon and stuff like that. But one of the blogs that came up this week was the first call, Are you ready to relay? The call is out already for people to participate in that. Hopefully, we'll have Sander here at some point in some future weeks to give us an update. Anything new on that front you know at the moment, Saffia?
Well, interestingly, I was talking to Elizabeth Tilmsley earlier today, and she's organising the Fantasy Fair. And we have a plan to make a documentary about how the Fantasy Fair is put together. So over the coming few weeks, I'm going to be interviewing her and interviewing some of the people who are involved in creating the Fantasy Fair. We're not going to, the Fantasy Fair is so wonderful, we're not going to put out any spoilers at all. So it will actually go out just as the Fantasy Fair starts, but it'll be a bit different for a Designing World show. It's going to be treated much more as a straight documentary report filmed over several months. And hopefully it's going to be interesting to people to give them something of an idea of how a really big event like this comes together.
And it does. It's a year long. I mean, I think there's a couple of months of sort of downtime, isn't there, around Christmas, and then it's all go again, literally building up and up throughout the year.
There's the Christmas Expo. I think they have a kind of quiet time from about August till mid-November when the Christmas Expo happens, and then it goes quiet again until the launch. But obviously people are beavering away at the moment getting everything set up, and things as big as the Fantasy Fair, the planning for Fantasy Fair 2013 started a couple of weeks after Fantasy Fair 2012. You know, when they start having post-mortem meetings and discussions and leading on to exploring how things can be developed and you know, what they'll change for next year, what they won't change for the next year, and so forth. And then they start thinking about who's going to be the sponsors, who are going to be the sim builders, how they're going to explore the theme, all of this sort of thing. It's all really, really fascinating watching how it comes together. And having been involved in creating a few large events myself, I thought it'd be fun to share with people, and the Fantasy Fair is a really good one to do it with. So that's my take.
There's also
but I'm sure
there's also I
going on too.
don't know whether either it's here. It's really enough frame of reference, but I've also noticed in the fashion blogs there's some fashion fair coming up, which again is an RFL fundraiser.
That's
and that's
fun. Yeah, I mean,
that's been blogged during the week.
Yeah, they will be doing this. Much the same process is going on with the fashion fair, and indeed with the Home and Garden Expo. So all this Relay for Life stuff is going on. But this year, I'm expecting to be subsumed from about the beginning of March in a certain other event that will be coming up, which Honor will also be involved in.
Yes, it's a very tiny little event that will happen in June.
Yeah.
Great. Seems a long way off, but it seems I'm sure. You know the way these work.
Last year we had 6 weeks to put that particular event together. This year we're not waiting, so life might be a little easier.
Yeah. That's the idea. That's the
plan.
Because it's going to be 10 years. And obviously, you know, the 10th birthday party is going to be enormous.
That's right. And even better than last year.
Yeah. Well, it's a big event. 10 years, you know, whatever we say and criticize about Linden Labs, you know, 10 years is a landmark. You know, they've made it this far. We're not sure how, but they've made it.
They did this far,
and definitely, of course, a celebration.
Of course,
did you see that? I don't know whether both of you are watching the Main Week in Review show earlier, but we showed a clip of this new Bloxworld. It's an old, well, it's not an old clip. It's a fairly recent clip, and a very amusing one, which Linden Labs, of course, bought this week. Do either of you?
No.
Either of you experienced that?
I honestly don't.
We were sort of having a meeting about 1 billion Rising, so
we were. Of course, yes.
I'm afraid our eye was off the ball. Yes.
Which means you didn't hear Tara. You really didn't hear Tara talking either, because she was talking about your blog of I think it was this morning, wasn't it? The secret. What was it?
Second Life's
secret people.
I
Second Life's little secret.
Calling it Second Life's dirty little secret, but then I thought that was probably too strong. But yeah, I mean, what I did, a lot of people have this sort of thing about gender and make a big fuss about gender and how people switch genders and all this sort of thing in Second Life. And I think they're really ignoring the fact that there's a really fascinating aspect to do with the demographics of age. So I thought I would write about that.
One of her lovely points is that you know, when you first went onto the internet and suddenly realized that, you know, your Aunt Margaret could see what you were writing, and you might get poked at by her bridge club, or your mother suddenly knows all of your activities because you put that photo of yourself drunk on, you know, out there, Facebook, and your mother saw it. Even though you don't live in the same country anymore, your parents are actually involved and they're online. And the Linden Lab brilliant minds who are, you know, working on this world and hammering on code and doing all of those things are lovely, you know, maybe 22, 24-year-old bright people, but they're building Second Life for their parents. Because a lot of us are of that age, and perhaps they don't recognize what a large part of their market is, and maybe that becomes a little disorienting for them to suddenly realize that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
I think that has to be the case. I don't fully understand why, but the way they go after the gaming thing a bit, they've changed tact over the years. But we've discussed this many times that we're not at all sure Linda Navs do understand their demographic, even if it's available to them. But I'm certainly the impression, that there are obviously a lot of, for example, disabled people who rely on Second Life to do things, and certainly people of a certain age. And they are actually. I mean, one of the first clubs I joined, groups-wise, when I came into Second Life, was something called the Old Farts Group.
Funny, that's not on my list.
Okay. No, it was just a natural one to join. I might as well be ultimately my own age, so I joined that. But equally, I was talking to one of my broadcasting associates earlier on, and we were talking about certain people who are of a certain age, but who in their avatar, are really reliving their youth and possibly behaving as if they were still in their youth too. And the dilemmas you face there, sort of when you if you're in voice, you can usually tell male from female, for example, but you really can't tell age at all. I mean, you really only get that from the not from the inflection of voice, but people of experience often show it in the way they speak and the things they raise. But it's really fascinating. And I was looking at all your pictures, Saffia, all part of the ones you used, and I suddenly thought, oh, it's a while since I went into my inventory and dug out all my old men. I bought them. I bought every old man avatar I could find, I think, over the course of time. Although I generally stick to this one. It's not quite so bad.
My old man avatar isn't that good. Well, it's not actually mine. One of my male alt has an old man. But the old lady alt that I used and that I have, I love actually. She is, I would say, older than me in Second in real life.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, by a serious margin. But she is so lovely. I wanted to get an old lady out because when we were filming the Black and Mirror, we had a wonderful, wonderful actress who has done a lot of amazing anime work, who was the voice actor for the part of the Abbess in episode 4. But we needed someone to go in and puppet the part of the Abbess, so I did that. And I needed an old lady avatar, but I didn't just want, hideous hag. This was the leader of a strange, mysterious, and very powerful monastic order. She was a woman who possessed arcane skills and great wisdom. She's consulted by Alice at this point in the story. And so I wanted to find an avatar that kind of reflected this, and I was very lucky. I found one who I think is both old and wise and actually beautiful. She has the most beautiful face. And I thought that was good. I'd love to see more like that in Second Life. Too often, when people go for old age, they go for an absolute caricature.
And in my case, I've got a lot that are actually quite literally photographic image skins, and they never seem to work very well with eyes. I don't know what it is, but you put some nice eyes on one of these photographic skins, and your eyeballs start rolling, and you see bits of black, and lots of glitchy faults in the physics. But I do like them, and of course, if anybody questions my acquiring all these avatars, I just say, well, I'm just picking up characters from Machinima, aren't I? So if somebody says, oh, be a cameo in this, I'll go into the inventory and think, right, well, where's me pirate? Where's me old man?
Yes, it's very useful to have.
It's like that. It's like that famous kilt collection I was talking about the other week. Far too many to ever wear, but I know they're there if I need them. Okay, so what else have we got? Something. I think you mentioned this. Well, I know you mentioned this last week, Saffia. Was, and you probably know the sim too, on there. Armada Breakaway, wonderful sim.
Yes.
It's closing, but they've done a rather curious thing. I think it is still happening, and that is they've sort of set fire to it, but it's a slow burning operation, so that you can sort of over a course of days or however long it's going to take to burn down, you can actually visit it and
Yes.
watching it in its various stages of being burned.
I was there last night dancing amidst the flames, actually. Very
Ah.
Yeah. That's
a good
absolutely
idea.
packed. They had a big party and the fires were set and everyone was dancing. The scoundrel fleet of pirates who inhabited Armada Breakaway are actually moving to a new location in the Blake Sea. I think they have got half a sim there and they're going to set up camp, or whatever pirates call where they settle, which of course gives them great sailing area because it's the Blake Sea. It's very sad to see Armada Breakaway go, but they just couldn't sustain it, and I'm glad to see that they're actually trying to have a community that continues.
Yeah, it's always a sort of window. Well, the show, of course, we have some clips of Lost World 2, which is another one that's passing. I think we covered a few last week, sadly moving on. But I think it's special when a sim chooses a way to go out.
Yes,
that makes it an event itself.
It doesn't just disappear.
To remember.
It has a special way of going.
Yeah. And brings some people in too, which, as you can testify. So I'm just looking at my other links here.
I was going to tell you about something I'm up to.
Okay, yes.
If I'm here on Sunday, I'm going to talk about what's happening on Monday.
Okay, before you do, because I'm going to go see both of you in turn, right? Do either of you know anything about the new synthetic theatre?
No.
Is that the one with the let me see. Oh, sure. Make me go through my senior moment in public. I know something about it, and I haven't made it there yet. But they're putting on a performance, aren't they? Aren't they doing something where you buy a ticket and then you go through it and you're immersed inside it?
Yes, that's it. It's a pay to get in gig. You get the tickets, and then when the time comes, you're teleported up to where it takes place. You also take part in it.
Yes.
As a sort of, you're an actor in it as well as on the receiving end of what's been scripted. And now I raised it because it came up again. One of their productions is called 99%, which of course gets into the political territory of, the other 1%, shall we say. But no, if neither of you've been to it, then
I haven't yet. I plan to, but I have not yet been. There are yellow stickies all over my desk, Mel, with the names of sims and events and performances and things I really need to get to, all over my desk. And that's one of them.
I do this when I'm reading the blogs daily and there's destinations and stuff like that. I always send them to Pocket, or what was used to be Get Later. And then I'm in Second Life here, got a bit of spare time. I open the Pocket list, and it's invariably either hunts or destinations I want to visit, and I think I've got a couple of new ones to visit, and I open the Pocket page and there's about 100 there. How many can you fit in, basically? But that's life. It's this metaverse, for those of you watching who haven't been here, is colossal. You will never be at a loss for something to do.
No. And
Uh,
you'll never get to the end of it. What scares
it's
me, I'll tell you what
a-
scares me, is that there are people out there doing amazing things and we won't find them because there's just so
yeah.
much to work
Yeah.
your way through.
Yeah.
And I apologize to all of those people that I don't get to, but please don't give up because there's extraordinary things going on out there.
Mm,
It's
absolutely.
true. I
And
find the same
let
with
us,
news reporting.
Hmm.
yes, let us know about it
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
so much is just wonderful out there. And even if we can't run over and see, I mean, at the moment I'm telling people I would love to come and see this, that, and the other, but after February the 14th,
Yes.
please, after February the 14th. But yeah, just so much wonderful stuff. This is something. We're about to film a show. And this is something that is very much in my mind at the moment. There are places can raise themselves in people's profile because that's the way that they will survive. And we're going to be visiting for Designing Worlds in a couple of weeks an absolutely gorgeous sim that I've been posting about on my blog, and we actually got an extension of life because people went and put money in the tip jar. And it's called Arcachon.
Mm-hmm.
And it has so much there. It
Right.
has a wine tasting, it has oyster degustation, it has a balloon trip, a boat trip, a motorbike you can ride all around the sim. You can see a replica of the biggest sand dune in Europe. There's a hunt where you hunt for the flags of the European Union. There's all sorts of things to do. They have concerts there. And they are, struggling to make tier and thinking they might have to close. What they want to do is run French conversation classes there where you could actually subscribe for a very reasonable amount to do a 10-week course in French on different
Cool.
levels. And in an immersive
Right.
environment
Yeah.
because it is a francophone sim, and it would be absolutely wonderful. And yet, these people are really, really struggling to make tier, and you have to say, what the hell do they have to do in order to make tier? Because
Mm.
it's what they're trying to do is so great, and they have got so much to appeal to so many people. How can they go further up the list of must-see places? How can
Yeah.
they get people to come and see them and contribute to tier? And I don't know the
It's
answer. I mean,
very.
we can publicize things, but we're not answering.
I'd like to say, it's a forlorn hope, I suppose, within the labs, but I'd love to see some kind of live aspect to destinations where when you're in, forget going to the events page on the web and what's
Yeah.
on or whatever, just some kind of live feed of things happening at any given moment that you can pull up if you need it. And sort of a bit more awareness of new things on the part of Linden Lab, to pick up on one thing and say a destination guide and stick with it for a while. And, at the moment, even dates, at the moment they've got Valentine's Day and just to be in a bonnet, and that doesn't come for a couple of weeks yet. But it seems to be
Thank
all
God.
that gets talked
Yeah.
about. Yeah, well, quite. Okay, but let's
The
go back to you, Saffia. The
Yeah,
other
yeah.
things,
Well,
yeah.
actually, this week, having said all that, this week we are going to be visiting a sim that really is popular and that has achieved that kind of critical mass effect and is thriving, really thriving. And that is Berlin 1920s. Berlin and the Weimar Republic. It's a sim that started with a sort of fairly small build by Jo Yardley, and she grew it until now it's become a whole sim. And you can see various aspects of Berlin culture, German culture, Berlin culture. The two are not necessarily synonymous at all. In the 1920s, it's always 1929 there, in fact. When they hit December the 31st and the ball drops, they start 1929 all over again. Because they don't want to move forward into the 30s. What they want to do is show the Weimar Republic at its height. And it's a wonderful in terms of buildings, in terms of creations they've got there. In terms of films, they've got a cinema that shows silent movies, which I think is a great thing to do. They've got cafes, they've got bars, they've got swimming baths, they've got slums, they've got posh houses, they've got a few stores, but mostly the tier is paid by residents and tips. And the way of arriving is great fun too, and you'll be seeing that all in the show. Designing Worlds at 2 p.m. on Monday the 28th. Don't miss it. Yeah.
And they have quite a strict dress code on that soon, don't they?
They have extremely strict dress code. You unless you are proposing to flaunt your body on a stage, you do not go in the conventional flapper attire that shows too much leg. You are meant to dress properly. And Joe, who runs the sim, is an advocate in trying to look like a very ordinary Berliner of the time, not too glamorous. You do get a few glamorous people, and of course when Ulrich and I go there, we are, I fear, glamorous, but you know, she encourages people to actually look like ordinary working class Berliners of the 1920s. And you can do things like buying second-hand clothes sort of pre-stained and slightly shabby.
I always cheat with these things. I now go as my pussycat avatar, who's not who's really can get away at any time and space required. Really, you know, it can be, I'm a spaceship's cat, or I can be a cat floating around in any period of time. Really, so that's quite universal. So I cheat.
You don't want to go somewhere too futuristic, otherwise, you know, you would be expected to have evolved. Like the cat in Red Dwarf.
There you go.
And there are a few suspect sims where I fear I might get eaten. But by and large, 99% of them work. Put it that way.
It's a great scheme.
You had anything else?
I think that's all for my news this week.
Oh, right. Okay. Honor.
Yes.
I'd love to ask you off the top of your head. I mean, over and beyond the things we have actually covered, that I had on the agenda. Well, you know, I know you don't get to everything. Although I know you get to an awful lot. Is there anything? Is there anything spectacular, worthy, or on at the moment that's, you know, we haven't mentioned, or it's getting you particularly excited? Or
yes, and let me get the exact name of it. There's an I'm going to talk about Linden Endowment of the Arts again. There is a show starting around now, which is I'm sorry if I was, you know, maybe 30 years younger, this would Skydance. Skydance version episode 5 is going to debut this coming week in on Leia in Linden Endowment for the Arts. It's it literally is dance. It takes place 4,000 meters in the air, and it's breathtaking. It's absolutely stunningly beautiful. Go to the Linden Endowment for the Arts blog, and you'll find some instructions. What you should know before you go is that they limit the number of attendees for each of the performances, just to ensure that lag isn't terrible, or so it's a good experience for everybody to go. But they will have a number of performances. So Skydance is something I think people should look at attending.
Yeah, I think I've seen the Skydances a couple of times. Is that just today, or is this not?
No, this will be ongoing for a while. It's taking over one of the Leia Sims for a period of time, for at least a month.
Great.
Yeah, so there will be a number of performances, and you will be able to get it's we'll call it a ticket, but you don't pay for the ticket. It's just to limit the number of people who are in the audience for any given performance.
Yeah, well, we do all that all the while we're broadcasting, of course. So our cameras would be crashing, for example.
Yes, yes.
Very, very wise move indeed. Talking of which, actually, I just remembered, right after the show at 3:00 over on Metaverse Island, there's a performance by the Shanghai sisters, who, of course, also put on a rather spectacular show. In our case, it's up in space, so they're on one sim floating above a planet Earth, so to speak, and the viewing is on 3 adjacent sims. And it's nice to see those particles go off at the speed they're meant to go off, for example.
Exactly. Yes.
Rather than 5 minutes later and only get half of them, or if that. So, yes, but no, the fire dancers are great too. Anything else? What's on your visit agenda for this week, or are you not going to?
Oh, spoilers!
Yeah, spoiler time.
No spoilers. No spoilers.
This week on McMillan's blog.
No, I usually make up my mind the morning I head Inworld. I mean, sometimes there are art exhibits I plan that I'm going to hit them that day. But I actually make up my mind. I rise very early. Apparently, 4:30 isn't normal for some people. And I know that's when she goes to bed. I make my coffee and I go to one of the sites I use for inspiration. Find a place that looks likely, and I head Inworld, and that's what I do that day. And then whatever it is that happens to be on the top of my head in a stream of consciousness form becomes the content of the blog post. So I really
That's
don't.
a good way to do it.
Well, and
you don't plan an agenda. You just go where it's fitting.
I mean, so today I found a sim I'd never heard of. I actually wasn't going to blog today, but I saw an image that I thought was intriguing, and I followed it down and did a non-blog post of this really cool sim. So I can't tell you what's coming up.
I'm a bit that famous. Yeah. I guess I'm a bit like that with the famous pocket links too. That you TP to a destination, and of course it's laggy or something, so I just TP out and go to another one. So I can never really tell you where I'm going to go next. But that's the fun of it, really, isn't it?
It is. There are days where I'm determined I'm going to go visit that particular sim. And then I'll arrive and discover that it's one of those places where they have some sort of war game going on, for example, and people level up with points by killing people. And apparently I have a giant sign on my back that says this is an old lady shooter, because as soon as I land on one of those sims, I die. It's just part of my experience in Second Life. It's and unfortunately I don't have any way of retaliating, because I'm usually dead. So I then go somewhere else. So you very rarely see war game sims on my blog, just because they shoot me, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, this is certainly this reminds me of CD-ROMs and things like that. I know a lot of people refer to Second Life as a game, and I've never been a gamer. I used to like Myst and Riven and that Seventh Guest, but every time I loaded one of those on CD-ROMs, and professionally I was meant to be keeping an eye on them, see what they're all about, but I would get shot dead in the first frame. And I could never ever get beyond the first frame of half these games. So I just gave up. I wasn't interested.
I have never played one of those games. I don't know what to do. I have absolutely no concept of how you do it, or how anybody survives long enough to figure out what they're doing. It makes no sense to me. So
I think they sort of go back obsessively again and again and again, and do it till they get it right.
Or hope somebody misses.
Yeah, and then 6 months later they're on scene 2 of 1,000. I get some people for people, especially adept with the shoot 'em ups. But it's unfortunately in Second Life, I've ended up on damaged enable sims, but I rarely recall having got entangled in a sort of thing where I'm dead and return to my home within seconds. But I'm usually out of there of my own accord. Okay, so have we covered it? Either of you got anything else? Or shall we call it a wrap here and move back to the main studio?
I think it's probably a wrap.
It is a wrap as Silent Souls. Well, we have one little special thing that we said we were going to go out on, which I think requires us all to stand up and run a little thing that we've got handy. And no doubt Pet Love will sort of organise the camera bit so that when we... oh, yes, it's a simple matter of play and world, isn't it?
3,
so
2.
I will be back shortly over on Metaverse Week In Review over at livestream, but that's... I've just realised how small I am compared with you two. Something must avatar.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, that's beside the point. We'll fix that later. So that's it from the Inworld review this week. This is now posted separately, of course, as a separate show at YouTube as well, which is great. But we hope to see you next week, either at Week In Review, of which this is part, or just watching the replay in its own right. So before we go, I'd like to thank Saffia for being here.
Thank you, Mal. It's great to be here, as usual.
And especially, I'd like to thank McMillan for joining us today, and I hope we'll see you again soon as well.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. And we'll show you the rising.
Yeah.
Indeed. So we'll do it. I'll let Saffia do the countdown, and Pet Love can take us away.
Okay, and we are going live in 3, 2, 1.
I'm watching on our monitor here, and we're a bit behind the times, but never mind. There we go. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Next week.